We are back for episode 7
Welcome
of the Sages
back.
Nook podcast. We're back, baby. We're back on our weekly cadence, and we are ready to talk about some D&D as usual. My name's Tom. You may know me on the Adventure Sage on all of my platforms, especially TikTok, because guess what? We're back for at least 90 days. So buckle up. Content's coming. This is also my brother, Mitch, the dual wielder.
If you don't know me by now, there's a problem. Why are you starting on episode 7 of the fucking pod?
That's true. That's true. You got some serious issues if you're not starting this from episode 1 and following. This is a continuing storyline. There is a narrative here. By narrative, there isn't really a narrative, but go back and watch. You idiot. You stupid idiot.
I will know.
We got some beer tonight. It's Monday night. That's how pumped we get for the podcast. We're drinking beer on a Monday night.
All right. You think we're going to do the podcast sober just because I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning tomorrow? You must be fucking crazy, buddy. All right. This is
Actually, that's something I did want. That's something I wanted to bring up, Mitch. There is and I'm a little foggy on the exact rules because I have a YouTube channel, but it's not very big. But I'm pretty sure if you drop an F-bomb within the first 30 seconds of a video, it's an immediate demonetization.
Fuck.
I'm pretty sure listening back on our podcast episodes, every single episode, you drop an F-bomb within the first 15 seconds of the video.
I'm ungovernable.
Thank God we don't monetize these things.
You think we make money on these things?
Yeah, we don't make anything off this. It's just us booling around, drinking beer, and talking D&D. So talk some MFD&D. I've ran a session. We always start this off. How much D&D have we played in the last week? Not a lot, but that's going to change soon.
Zip.
It's going to change soon. I ran a session of Strahd. I'm running Curse of Strahd in person right now for my main group, my main in-person group. And went pretty well. We had the Battle of Yester Hill. Pretty cool. Pretty beefy battle as far as Strahd is concerned, the module. One of the deadliest battles in the game. I did a little bit of homebrew to kind of alter it a little bit. It's usually this huge, giant, high-scale battle. Kind of wanted to make it a little more intimate, especially with my limited resources of terrain. I don't have a giant fucking table because the hill is insane. But anyways, I switched out some enemies and I added a werewolf. I was like, oh, this werewolf's going to be so cool. They're going to like bring him out of a cage and, the druids, the evil druids are going to force him to turn and he's going to attack the party. That's going to be like the big assailant. So they started the combat and they were, just kind of messing up the druids. They were level 5 at this point and the druids are all like CR2. So they're just messing them up. They're killing wolves and stuff. And then one of the berserkers lets out the werewolf and the werewolf just, starts running. And I was like, all right, here we go. The wolf runs over there, gets 2 attacks. The cleric is like, I have an idea. Runs over, blasts him with a remove curse, and
Yep.
He's fine. He's a human again.
I knew it. Yeah, dude. Clerics are the best.
Yeah, so it was a really cool moment, but the combat ended much sooner than I anticipated and was a lot less deadly than I anticipated. But it is what it is.
Hey, it wasn't due to some bullshit. It was due to some creative thinking. As a DM, you like it.
That's true. See, that's a nice thing that I do like is, I think we've talked about this very briefly, but it's one thing when your combat is destroyed by the players when they're just being normal. That's kind of boring. Like if your players are just acting as they would or just going through the motions and they destroy your combat, that's on you as a DM. You should have prepared a harder combat. But when your characters destroy your combat because they are being smart and doing creative things, that's just them being good players.
Yeah.
And you should not be mad. You should not be mad about that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it could be frustrating if you only have like one combat prepared for a big session. But if your players in a creative way outsmart you, not necessarily just spam Tasha's Mind Whip or something at a creature, like that's an interesting thing. Like, I wonder if my remove curse will work on this werewolf. It's a fucking curse. Like, let's see. Like, that's an interesting thing, and that's a good use of the spell. And, next time, Tom's going to have 3 werewolves there.
Yeah. Well, it was a cool thing because now they have like I said, I've mentioned this before. I've done some pretty extensive homebrew to Strahd. I haven't like taken away anything, but I've just added a lot more content, added a lot more depth. I actually follow this Reddit thread by a creator called MandyMod. It's a very popular like homebrew Reddit thread for Strahd. And she like basically goes through and like adds so much more depth and stuff to the module, which is already a great module. But yeah, so they're about to go and do like another dungeon crawl, which is kind of what saved me from losing my mind. I was like, oh, okay, you know what? It's all right. They're about to
There's
go into a giant dungeon crawl. It's
more
okay that they
fights to
kind of
come.
yeah, it's okay that they kind of stopped this one.
There you go.
And then I used that werewolf as a bridge to one of the next parts. And that's, ooh, you know what? That is a good topic to talk about. Using your intuition to try and route the campaign where you want it to go based on what your characters are doing. And by that, I mean, let's say you want your players to get to this temple out over here on the map, but they're just doing bumblefuck over here, doing whatever they want. You cannot railroad them. Nobody likes to be railroaded. No one likes to say, hey, you're going to this place whether you like it or not. But you can essentially adapt on the fly and say, you know, you can create something on the spot that will route them to that temple. In this case, one of the next kind of organic spots that the party should go to is a village called Kresk. And I didn't really know how exactly I was going to get them there without having to really just heavy-handed throw them there. But I saw lemons, so I made lemonade. They completely destroyed the werewolf, turned him back into a man, and now they're kind of responsible for this guy. They're like, yeah, well, you know, we'll take you home once this is all over. Where do you live? And he's like, oh, I live in Kresk. Bam. Big brain move.
The invisible railroad.
The invisible railroad. You got to hit your players with the invisible railroad.
DM masterpiece.
Exactly.
They think they're making their own choices. No. I got you right where I want ya.
It's all a fucking illusion.
Yeah. Oh, that vampire castle that you keep avoiding? You guys stumble upon it in the woods. Even though you didn't know it was in the woods. It's there now.
There you go. Yeah. Don't let your own headcanon get in your way. Do not let your own headcanon get in your way. If something's, you know, if you know that something's out over there, but the players are going this way and they don't know it's out over there, whoop, it's right here now, right in front of them.
And you could also do, if you know, there's other ways you can do it too. If the party is bad at survival checks or whatever, have them roll a couple survival checks while they're out traveling or exploring. They get lost. They end up there. There you go. Boom. Like that's one on counting on their failure. But if they succeed, you know, you could do something else. But they don't know what you know. They don't have everything mapped out in their head like you do. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Like really. You don't want your players to know necessarily that you're doing that all the time. Because then it feels kind of cheap. So I wouldn't do it all the time. But like try to find ways to route them to where they need to go rather than just telling them they need to go there. It's the invisible railroad.
The invisible railroad.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily a railroad. They're making the decisions to go there because you're putting things in front of them that make them want to go there.
I think I'm going to butcher this quote, but I think Zach the Bald, he's a content creator. He did a little podcast thing for a while. And I'm pretty sure on one of his episodes, he said, like, as a player, I want you to do everything you can to keep me on your railroad without letting me know that you're railroading me.
Yeah. That's
It's
the
like
best
this
story.
Yeah, it's like this unwritten agreement of like, look, you can manipulate me as much as you want to get me where you want to go, but I still want to believe that I'm in control.
Definitely. I mean, that's like the perfect sum up. I mean, because overall, even as a player, it's like it's the same thing as playing into the bit as a player. Like there's this above table headcanon where like you know where you're supposed to go. You know where you should continue the story. Obviously, you can go do other stuff if you want as a player, but like you kind of, if you're a good player, you pick up on it like, okay, well, he's probably got that dungeon prepared for us tonight. Let's not turn this into a shopping episode. Or let's not go to this other place that we didn't tell him we were going to go to. Like, let's go explore it. You know, that's what we're here to do. That's not necessarily taking away our agency. It's like, that's what the DM's prepared. It's all laid out in front of us to go do that. We don't necessarily have to, but our characters are very much incentivized to go. Hypothetical. You're paladin or a cleric. Say there's a paladin and a cleric in the same clergy in the party. And there's a priest at the local church that gets kidnapped. They're in a dungeon south of the city. The party is probably thinking, okay, well, we need to go save this guy. But then the rogue's like, well, I have a hit job that's due in a couple days. We should go do that hit job first. And then they learn perhaps another person in that church comes up to the party. This is you as a DM throwing in the invisible railroad. The person from the church, please, they said they were going to kill him tonight. You need to go now. They don't necessarily have to go. but that's like very incentivizing. Or he's going to be there by the end of the night and they're going to sacrifice him. Your party's very much going to, okay, well, we got to go take care of this now. It's the invisible railroad. They could still be like, no, we'll figure it out later and go do the hit job for the rogue. But, or they could just go where they probably should.
Yeah. That's part of being a good player too. And I look, I don't know how regular players, I don't know how non-DM players feel because I'm not a non-DM player. I've pretty much always been a DM player. Like I've been a DM before I was a player. When Mitch ran our first campaign, of course I was a player first, but then after that, I DM'd, very much got into that realm of the craft, and then went back to being a player in other campaigns. So I have this kind of like, I don't want to sound like a douchebag, but I feel like I have like this DM third eye when I'm a player where I'm like, I see exactly what the DM where the DM wants us to go, and I'm going to do everything in my power to go that way. If the party tries to steer me off the direction, I'm going to fucking kill them all and go the path that the DM wants me to go, because I understand the pain of your party just so horribly fighting your plans.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's like the above table unspoken knowledge of a outside of the table, outside of the gameplay person knows, okay, we were talking about this dungeon last time we played, and we were talking about how we were going to go into it. The DMs had 3 weeks to prep. They probably prepped this whole dungeon because we're going to go explore it. Let's not go do something else. Let's go into the dungeon because that's probably where the DM wants us to go. But again, there are players who just don't understand that. And like I'll play with them, and I'll like the DM will be saying stuff to the table, and I understand DM speak. Do you know what I mean? Like I understand what he's saying. Okay, well,
yeah.
From him saying that, he obviously means like, okay, this is a quest line we got to go engage in, or like this NPC. It's like the problem with that Critical Role scene where they all get focused on that chair. You know, like it doesn't matter for the plot, and none of those people really DM except for Liam, so they wouldn't necessarily know, but he just was a little bit too descriptive of the room, and they just didn't trust it, and it just sucked an hour out of that episode because they couldn't figure it out when it really didn't mean anything, and they couldn't listen to the DM speak. He was trying to kind of tell them that there was nothing wrong with this room. Like he was kind of trying to tell them that, but they just couldn't read into it.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to really heavy-hand it. You got to just frickin' slap your players in the face and be like, guys, I'm not, and sometimes I'll even say this, like when they're getting caught up on something of like, oh, well, what if it's this? And what if it's that? And I'm like, guys, I'm not even going to make you roll. Your basic intuition would tell you you're fucking wrong. Move on. Like there was, and actually, all right, well, I'm going to contradict myself right now because there was a time in my old campaign that I ran, the one that I finished up a couple months ago. It spanned over 2 years, that I basically, from a DM perspective, I was like, you don't know it. Move on. Not for, this is for a different time and place. Keep moving. And they kept pushing back, and they said, no, we want to go here now. We want to go here now. And it was, they were breaking into this very, essentially like this Fey ambassador. He was the foreign ambassador for the Unseelie court. They were breaking into his house for reasons, but they were exploring his house, and they found a door. From my perspective, preparing this session, I knew that they were going to come across this door, and they were going to be intrigued by it because it was a door, and it had like a riddle in Sylvan written across the top. There were no door handles. You had to solve the riddle. But here's the thing. I made sure that none of my characters knew Sylvan before going into this session. So I was like, all right, I can hand wave and say, you don't know the language. Maybe come back another time when you do. So they couldn't read the language. I made sure they had no spells that would allow them to read the language. And then they were like, no, we really want to open this door. I was like, you don't know the language. I'm sorry. They kept trying different things like, what if we push? They tried rolling strength checks and stuff. And I really thought that they were just going to get discouraged and walk away. And I was like, cool. Because I had a sense of what was behind that door, but I wasn't really ready for them to go down there because it was just going to open a can of worms. But I wanted to start foreshadowing things to come. But they wouldn't leave it alone. So the wizard, Elvis, he's like, all right, well, I know Elvish. And Merritt, the bard, he's like, okay, well, Elvis knew Elvish. So he's like, would I be able to decipher what language this is? And I was like, okay, give me an intelligence check. It's going to be a DC 20. Of course, the bard inspires him. And he makes the check. And I was like, all right, you know that this is Sylvan. You know that the language is Sylvan, though you cannot speak it. So Merritt was like, well, isn't Sylvan just an offshoot of the Elvish language? Could he maybe roll an extremely high intelligence check to try and just decipher the basic words? Maybe not read everything, but just decipher basic words. I was like, you know what? That's cool. And that's creative. Fuck it. I said, DC 25. They're only like level 4 at this point. So they're not like, super powerful characters. It's like DC 25 intelligence check. Go for it. Of course, the Bard inspires him again. And he rolls like a 19 and then rolls like, a D6 or something. He gets like a 26 or a 27. He barely passes. So they're like, yeah! And I'm like, all right. Thank fuck I had the riddle prepared. And I knew it was behind the door. So I gave him the riddle. They spent like literally an hour just laying there, sitting around the door, trying to figure out the riddle. The answer to the riddle was a riddle. I can't remember what the riddle was, but the answer was a riddle because it was a Fae, it was Fae involved. So it's a shitpost. Everything's a shitpost in the Feywild. But yeah, that ended up being one of their favorite sessions because of like they were super creative and they overcame a challenge. And honestly, I don't remember how exactly we got on this. It's when you try to say no as the DM and the players say yes, and it's just this battle. It was just really cool. And it's one of those things of trying to understand that you might have plans as a DM, but you're not running the show. You're the one that presents the environment and you decide how it reacts to what your players do. But ultimately, a good DM is going to abide by what their players want to do. If their players don't want to go somewhere and the DM is forcing them to go there, then you need to reevaluate how you're running your campaign and just kind of take a step back and think about things. My players, they didn't outwardly tell me, hey, we want to go in this door. But their characters' actions were telling me that. They were saying, we don't want to move on from the door. We want to try and figure this thing out. And they did a lot of creative things and got kind of lucky. And it ended up being a really cool moment when they did finally solve the riddle. Because it was one of those things where I was starting to be like, oh man, this is actually going to derail the session if they can't figure this out. And then they did. And they literally fucking cheered when they got it. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. And I didn't even plan for that to happen. In fact, I planned for that not to happen. But they told me, fuck off. We're opening this door.
They opened it and went inside?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have it ready?
I did have it ready. So it was, I had to act on my feet a little bit because when I planned for them to go in here, there's essentially a big like portal that would send them to the Fey realm. I wasn't ready for them to go to the Fey realm yet. They needed to do some more stuff in the city that they were in. So I just had that portal be dormant. This is actually a perfect fucking example of you adapting to send your players where you want them to go. So where I wanted them to go was a mine deep in the city to go investigate some spiders and some Kuatoa and fight a Hydra. It was that's a whole like 3-session arc that they went on. But they didn't go there. They went to this guy's house instead. So I had the portal that was going to be active. I had that be dormant. And on my feet, I went, all right, there's actually a broken tunnel into the mine that goes off. It's an offshoot of this place. So then they went down the tunnel, went into the mine. I didn't plan for that tunnel to be there.
Instead of the portal?
Yeah. So I had the portal be dormant.
Oh,
instead.
You had it turned off. Okay.
I had the portal turned off. So they I was like, yeah, it seems to be activated from the other side. So they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, but there is this fucking hole in the wall here. That just leads down. You want to check that out, right? And they're like, that's the only place we got to go then. Yeah. So I fucking crawled down there, fucking wipe my hands like nothing ever happened.
That's great.
You got to adapt. You got to be quick on your feet. If you got players, and I run kind of a sandbox game when I'm doing homebrew stuff. I really give my players a lot of power to go where they want. And that requires you to be quick on your feet. You have to understand that you need to sometimes on the spot reroute your players in ways that aren't going to take away their agency.
Yeah, and you got to do the prep beforehand. Like you got to know what's where and where's what. And you need to be able to have a kind of basic knowledge of all of the areas in their vicinity so that if you need to, you can kind of warp reality a little bit and move some things around. Or if they go somewhere you don't think they're going to go, you can kind of think of it on the fly. And there's also like the other way where it's like you don't want to take away your player's agency because you don't want them to, you don't want them to be like, oh, I have to go here because it's not ready or whatever, or this is where the DM wants me to go, so I have to go. You don't necessarily have to do that, but there's been times where like the players will want to go somewhere and it's like something I haven't planned for them to go at all. And it's sometimes just straight up like I was thinking Tom was going to go with that story. He did a way more masterful job than I thought he was going to go. I thought it was going to be like, sometimes it's like you guys did it. Like I did not expect you guys to do that. And I had a whole other dungeon planned for this session. As a DM, sometimes it might just be good to just above table be like, hey guys, behind that door is a very important stuff. And I just want you to know, I don't have that prepared. I did not expect you guys to do that. Perhaps come visit this later in the next session or something. And, obviously that's taking away agency and that's railroading a little bit. But if you don't have it ready and you want a session to be awesome, I feel like being honest at the table rather than just saying like, no, you can't do that. It feels better.
Yeah.
And your players will understand. Like if you're like, guys, you guys crushed it. I didn't expect you to do that. Those are the DCs I set for it, and you guys did it. I don't have it prepared. But Tom's a good DM, so he doesn't even think about it that way. So I would never have thought of that.
It's just all about rerouting. It's all about rerouting. It can be very hard to do in the spot. I'm not saying like this comes to me easily. And there are some times where I fuck it up and I'm like, fuck, dude, I wasn't prepared for that. I really messed up. But sometimes it's just about like thinking rationally of being like, all right, they're going down these stairs and going to this portal, but I really need them to get to the mine. What's the quickest way to do that? There's a fucking hole in the wall that goes to the mine. It sounds stupid, but they were none the wiser.
Yeah, your players don't know. They don't care. Like they won't even think about it. Unless it's something so absurdly out of the way or like different setting, they'll just be like, oh, there's a hole that goes to the mine. Sure.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things of like you're kind of laying the tracks down as the players are exploring. So I was like, all right. In my mind, I was like, why the fuck is there a hole to the mine in this random dude's? He wasn't a random guy, but I was like, why the fuck is there a hole to the mine in this guy's house? All right. So while they were exploring that, I kind of took them on like this 30-minute little journey of them like crawling down this hole. And, I had to make a couple checks for some reason. I can't remember why. But I was like, oh, you know what? This is a Feywild portal. There are Darklings here. That was something I established in canon. There were Darklings tracking one of the players in the party. I was like, the Darklings came out of the portal and they dug this hole so they wouldn't be seen leaving the house, and they come out of the entrance to the mine. Bam. Fucking got it. And it's just one of those things that I was just panicking in my head trying to think of it, but I was just thinking rationally. Just why would these be here? Cool. Darklings are here. Sick. And you just put those pieces together, and it might sound like a stretch in your brain because of your headcanon, because you didn't have this established beforehand, but the players are just going, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, they're none the wiser. They're none the wiser. They don't know. And that's another thing, like when you're a DM in the moment and something like that happens, that's a really hard skill to have because it's really hard to distract your players to let you think about what the fuck's going on. At least for me, I feel like I'm pretty handholdy with my players. They don't do a lot of like role playing with each other as much as, Tom's games. So sometimes it's difficult for me to try and do stuff on the fly because it's almost like they're just sitting there waiting for me to like say what I'm going to say next. And I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. And, I have to be like, you guys got to crawl down this thing, make a couple checks. And then while that's happening, I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
It's so, at least for me, it's hard for me to do that in the moment, but I haven't really had to deal with that too much. Usually I'll have like a general idea of where they're adventuring and I can just come up with some, random trap on the fly that they need to deal with, or like a crevasse they have to cross. And then that kind of distracts them for like 5 minutes.
It's all about just being in the moment, trying to hide it. But like Mitch said, if you are just SOL, you have nothing prepared and you don't know how to fucking make this work, bless you.
Sorry.
If you don't know how to make it work, then just literally tell your players. guys, I'm so sorry. I did not plan for you to
Yeah.
come here. And they'll be understanding, especially if, like, I don't know,
If
especially if
teleportation,
that's,
if teleportation comes into the mix and they just teleport to a random place and you're like, "Oh, we want to
oh,
yeah, we want to go to this city cuz we heard some lore about it like 4 sessions ago." It's like, yeah, can you guys do that at the end of the session?" That's like
yeah,
one of those things where like above table as a DM like, "Guys, I did not plan on you guys going to that city for a while. You can go to it if you want. This is like the players are running the game. They could do what they want. But just as a DM, you just got to be honest and be like, I don't have any of that prep. Like you're gonna have to give me till next session. Can we just like keep adventuring here for a little bit, do some shopping or whatever, and then we'll teleport there at the end of the session. We'll start there at the next time we play."
yeah. Is there, so there was a point in my last campaign where they were pretty high level at this point, I think like level 12, and they were running from one of their assailants, and they were not in a place where they could really fight a whole lot. They had already expended a lot of their resources. They had just gotten out of a dungeon crawl and an enemy was chasing them. So the wizard pulls out, I think it was an amulet of the plains, and they're like, "We're not going to outrun this guy. We just need to get the fuck out of here right now. This is our get out of jail free card." He uses the amulet of the plains. I think it was the amulet of the plains. Whatever it was, it teleported them to a random plane of existence. So they said, I don't know where we need to be, but we need to be not right here, right now. So he used it, the party vanished, and they teleported to the plane of Earth. So immediately I'm scrambling in my head, all right, we're going to have an encounter here. It's the plane of Earth. But they threw up the dome, the tiny hut, really quickly and took a long rest and then teleported back to the material plane. And I was like, okay, it says a random location. Thank fuck I have a map of my entire continent. So I was like, all right, we're gonna treat this as a grid. Or yeah, it was a 10 by 10. And I said, roll 2d10s. First one is we're gonna y-axis it. Second one, we're gonna x-axis it, and then we're gonna meet in the middle wherever you guys go. And that can only happen if you understand how the entire world works, which is why I think I would advocate for homebrewing your own world. Even if it's, look, no world is going to be as extensive as like the Forgotten Realms if you're just homebrewing it on your own. You know, if you're anything short of J.R.R. Tolkien, you're not homebrewing another Forgotten Realms. So don't try to hold yourself to that standard. You should homebrew your own world if you really want to be able to control what is going on, unless you're an absolute fucking Forgotten Realms historian.
Yeah, I would hypothetically, people who've played the hobby for dozens of years, yeah, you probably know the Forgotten Realms really well. Like you probably run all your games in there. You probably know it really well to teleport them somewhere random. But like if you're making your own world, which I prefer because you kind of can control everything, you know what's going on, and you can kind of weave your plots into it better. I feel like because like if it's a pre-made
Yeah.
world and they teleport to a city that's like, well, how am I going to fit my plot into this city because it's specifically defined already, you know what I mean? In a homebrew world that you've made, especially if they haven't been there yet, you can kind of just do whatever you want. So for my world, 90% of it isn't prepped because no one's ever been to those cities, but the moment they go to those cities, I'm going to do the prep work and flesh it out. There's just general like knowledge of areas in the planet that I'm not going to do all the prep work for because no one's been there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things when you're homebrewing your own world, you have a lot more freedom to make shit up on the spot. Like if we're in the Forgotten Realms and they go to Neverwinter, I can't make up shit because they can go fact check it. And I'm not saying it's not like this adversarial thing of like my players are looking for me to mess up, but it's like no, if you're playing in the Forgotten Realms, you have to kind of remain canon to the Forgotten Realms. You can't just make things up if
Yeah,
they go somewhere that you weren't prepared for.
you need to be a
Versus
much better
mine,
lore keeper.
yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna pull the curtain behind a campaign that Mitch was in for a minute, but that him and his party were investigating like this town of people that went missing. And I was like, the tracks go down to this area that's very dangerous. There were people of extreme importance and extreme prestige and intelligence that told their party, don't fucking go there. You will die. Don't do it. And I expected them to like go to this town and everyone was gone. And I was like, the footprints follow down to that place. And they would have been, oh man, well, we can't go there. We got to go back and get help or something like that. Because I didn't have this prepared yet.
Was that in
So they're like,
Drakensov or something or whatever?
Yeah.
when we went south?
Yeah. You went south to Neroth.
Dude, we're heroes. These people are in trouble. We gotta go south and save them. Oh, who are we gonna get? The guards to come help us? Fuck that. I'm a 10th level paladin. We're going.
Yeah, so they went anyways. They had like a 3-day journey just walking over these barren wastelands. And I was like, fuck. All right, well, I said there were purple worms here, so I'm going to roll with that.
Canon is there's purple worms here. We knew it.
Yeah, they fought a fucking purple worm.
Yeah, we had to use my celestial steed or whatever, my paladin steed as a bait so it would come out, and then we attacked it.
But I was not prepared for that. I was like, fuck. I didn't really have a lot of content prepared for this, so I'm just going to make a giant encounter with a purple worm. And that's also something you can do. I think there's 2 rules. If your players go somewhere where you didn't expect, especially if you don't, like, I use a lot of terrain, and I really like I've invested a lot of my disposable income into D&D terrain. So luckily I have the ability to like whip up a map really quick. But if you're not using terrain, this actually gives you even more power. If your party goes somewhere where you didn't expect, just fucking throw a giant encounter at them. An encounter that's going to take an hour and a half. Cool. They still had a super fun time. You had a really intense moment. And now you can actually prepare for what happens after that encounter, right? So that's something you can do if like they're journeying through the forest to the fortress that you didn't plan for them to go to for another 3 sessions. Just throw a big encounter at them. Fucking Cyclops runs out of the woods. He's lost, and hill giant, Cyclops, anything, a herd of owlbears. Just throw an intense encounter at him and let that soak up some time, because it's not filler. You can still turn that into a very intense and meaningful situation, but in your mind, for your prep time, that is filler. And that's just a way for them to have a good time in the session without you having to just prepare some important stuff right off the rip. That's number one. That's number one option of like, if they do something and you're just panicking, throw an encounter at them or throw a casino at them.
I have another one too, but yeah, casino is great. Every single player, when they find a casino, especially if it's underground hidden somewhere and like they stumble upon it, it's like, are you guys here to blah, 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 blah? And they're like, what? And it's like, you're here to play. And they're just like, oh, okay, yeah. And then they walk in and then they realize it's a casino. And then immediately they're like, let's go. And they go and fucking spend all their money every time.
Especially if your party likes gambling in real life. Like me and Noah and Mitch, we love going to casinos. We don't do it a lot, but it's always a super fun time when we go gambling, when we take a boys trip and we go play craps. So whenever I throw a casino in front of Noah at my table, he's frothing at the mouth, ready to just get in there. Yeah, ready to just get in there and eat that up. And you have cool, like, just prepare a few games, like D&D themed games. There's so many different games you can play that are simple with just your players rolling dice, but it's really fun and it's a really good change of pace from like doing encounters and stuff, because you still get that chance of being able to like gamble your money away or meet cool NPCs at the table and stuff like that. You can really turn an impromptu gambling session into like a really cool moment and even perhaps like introduce some cool NPCs to your party. But you were going to say one more, Mitch?
Yes. And this is going back to kind of like the purple worm discussion, where it's how to keep your players with the invisible railroad on the right track. This is an idea that's, not new, but it's kind of been mainly used in games in the past. Most people remember in games like, invisible walls, or like, you literally just try to walk and there's just a wall in the way, or the door is there, but it doesn't open. Like you can't pass it. My favorite thing in games is when you try to go off the beaten path or go to somewhere you're not supposed to go, and there's a giant fucking monster that will kill you if you go over there. That's my favorite blockage in a game. When you are going out there, like in Spore, the game Spore, I used to play it a lot as a kid. If you swam too far out in the ocean, a monster would just fucking eat you. It keeps you from leaving. There's just certain zones in World of Warcraft. Subnautica, yeah. You go into the void immediately, like 5 minutes into your journey, it spawns the ghost leviathans that just fucking swim out and eat you. Those are my favorite. Like, you can do that in D&D too. Like, say they're going into an area you really don't want them to go. they're going deep into the forest. They've been traveling for 20 minutes. It's getting darker and darker. The woods are getting thicker and thicker. The trees are growing in weird directions. Like, just describe it. Like, they're not supposed to go this way. Go back to town. Like, what are you doing? And then eventually it's like, you guys roll a stealth check for me. And they're all like, do we see anything? It's like, roll a stealth check for me. And then they all roll stealth checks, blah, 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 blah. And then you guys all duck for the bushes as you hear shaking. And then you just have some like 80-foot tall eldritch horror tall thing walking through the woods looking for them. And then it just turns around and walks away as it doesn't hear them or something. I swear they will run. They will not stay there. They will go back to town. So, and if they say, fuck it, let's fight it. Are you crazy? Okay. You're level 3. You want to fight the eldritch horror that's 80 feet tall? Sure.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy. I guess is a good segue. Mitch, I don't know how much time we have left. I think we might end up skipping the wisdom check.
We're at 41 minutes.
Yeah. We can't get through the wisdom check. But this is a good. We're on a roll. We're on a roll. Hey, anytime where we're skipping the wisdom check, we're spouting some shit.
We got some good yaps going. Good yaps.
Yeah,
big
we got
monsters.
some good yaps. But this is a good segue into if your players go somewhere where they are not supposed to be, kind of, just piggybacking off of everything Mitch just said. If they are fighting an enemy that is so far out of their level range and you need to make a point, don't TPK the party. Kill one of them as an example, and they will run. Don't punish the whole party if they accidentally get into a position where sometimes your party will get over cocky and overzealous and overconfident and however you want to put it, and they genuinely think that they can take an enemy that there is no chance in hell that they're winning this. If you really need to prove a point and saying you should have ran, don't TPK them all, because that's going to be it's just going to be a bad time, especially if you're running like a super intense like plot role play heavy campaign. Kill one of them.
Kill one of them.
Give them the chance to run.
Yep, kill one of them, or do the classic. I've referenced this a couple times. One Punch Man, the death punch that he throws at the guy in like the second episode. And it literally says death on the screen in subtitles as he does it. And then he pulls his punch last second and doesn't kill him. And the guy just says, okay, training's over. Because he's like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to die. Do something like that. Give them a saving throw. And if they roll really good, just be like, okay, for example, let's just say, Tom, you feel like if you didn't make that saving throw, something horrendously bad was about to happen to you. Your character describe what their character feels. Your character feels immense fear and feels like a tank shell just flew by his head. Your character would not have survived whatever was about to happen. That character is, okay, we should probably leave. And they will run. And just describe it like the players are like attacking the creature while he focused on that one person. And just like, your arrows are bouncing off him. Or like, yeah, your fireball hit him. He just kind of ignored it. Like, it looks like it hurt, but it didn't really flinch him at all. And they're immediately gonna be like, okay, we got to run away from this. And then just make it so that like it's really slow and it doesn't really chase after him, or it just kind of like stands there and watches them run away, and they will go back to town.
You can also make that to your advantage too. Like this works especially in a sense of like the gargantuan creatures. Like you can really convey a creature's power level by how attentive they are to the player's actions against them. If the players are so insignificant that their attacks aren't even bothering or really drawing the attention of the creature, that will slowly put in their mind that this creature is beyond them. It's it's a whole thing of like, yeah, like Mitch said, the creature is about to kill one of the players and they're all just hurling fire blasts.
And, get him! 3 attacks, blah, blah, blah.
And nothing is working. That will tell them, hey, you can't kill this thing. And it doesn't even care about you. You are so insignificant from a power level to this thing that it barely even registers you as it's going in for the kill on one of your party members.
Yeah, this strategy of blocking an area is great for low level game. Because like once they're like at 15th level or higher, they're going to be like, no, fuck that. We can fight this thing. We'll figure out a way. Because they just have so much power at that point. And they're so confident in their characters. But at low levels, this is a great thing. Like say it's like a temple that you don't want them to go near for like 20 sessions or something. And like, okay, I'm just going to have a guardian, big monster that just literally just sits there and sleeps. And the first time they try to go there, it's going to scare them off. Okay, they're not going to forget that encounter. They are going to be chomping at the bit to go back there when they're more powerful and go fight that monster, especially if it kills one of their friends. That's going to be a huge thing for them way later down the line. I remember in one of Tom's old campaigns, he
The
had
Udok. I was just thinking about that, right?
the Udok,
The Reaper of the Woods.
the Reaper of the Woods.
Dude, that literally just popped into my head.
I was getting to it.
The brothers.
The brothers. We were in this forest. We were probably like level 6 or something. And there was this giant behemoth of a creature monster, giant gorilla demon thing. Literally,
it's an Udok. It's a critical role inspired creature, but it's like this giant gargantuan demon ape. The mini's still at my apartment, but I would have grabbed it and shown it. It is huge. Not huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's gargantuan. It is insanely big. The mini is the biggest mini I own. So go ahead.
And we didn't even see the mini. He just described the creature to us. It was walking through the woods. We knew it was there because we had to cross the woods for some reason. I think we were getting to like an elf city or something. But we knew the creature was in the woods somewhere because the town that lived nearby basically spoke of it as like, yeah, there's a big monster in there. Be careful when you go in there. So we knew. And we knew we had to sneak through the woods, get through there, and get out fast. We're not going to stay for long. And that thing scared us. We thought in our brain, okay, when we get high level, we're going to go back and fight that thing. I don't think we did because the campaign took us elsewhere, but we really wanted to.
Yeah, you didn't. It's funny because the campaign I just ran, I've ran two super long form campaigns in my homebrew world. One Mitch was a part of. It was when we were living in Florida, and the other one just ended recently. I ran it in Colorado for 2 years. But those are like the two main campaigns I've ever ran. I've ran a million different campaigns, but those are like my two, like, this is gonna sound stupid, but like in my head canon, if I was like Matt Mercer running Critical Role, that was my campaign 1 and that was my campaign 2, like the continuing story of like super intense campaigns. But anyways, the second campaign group that I ran here, they actually went that story that I was telling where they were warping through the plains trying to get away from that guy, and I made that grid. They ended up right at that city, and they randomly rolled that by chance. And I was like, they're like, ha, Tom, I bet you don't have this prepared. And I was like, actually, I fucking do. This is a boss from the old campaign that they never beat.
And just teleported right in his house.
Well, they teleported right at the town, and I was like, oh, dude, I literally, this is like a DM's wet dream. I was like, holy fuck, dude. They just ported into a boss battle I never got to run.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck yes. I was visibly excited too. I was like, you guys couldn't have rolled better on this random table. You're gonna go fight the fucking Reaper of the Woods now. So it was awesome. But to tack on to Mitch's point of like, they understood that they couldn't fight this. Something that I did, and maybe it didn't register, but something that I thought was very subtle when I was doing that is there was an NPC with them when they were traversing through these woods. It was one of the village people. I can't remember her name. I think it was Durna. But she was like this very nice furbolg lady that was like kind of guiding them through the woods. And when the Reaper started walking through and they all hid in the bushes, I roleplayed her as sitting there mortified with fear, like tears running down her eyes, shaking, like so scared, just trying to convey the fact that this thing will kill everybody. And that's what you can do too. Like you can, especially if you have any NPCs as a DM and you're trying to convey that fear, have the fucking NPCs shit their pants. And that will convey to the players, hey, maybe you should be shitting your pants too.
Yeah, this is where your description comes into play. For the big monster guarding the area, you don't want them to go, or you don't want them to fight. Just say like, you look at this monster and you just describe to the player what they're feeling because they don't know, they can't see it. Describe. Yeah. Okay, your character has fought many monsters before. This is scary. Your character feels fear, almost like he's felt it for the first time. Your character feels like a child in the presence of this beast. Your heart is telling you, don't stay. Run. Hide.
Yeah.
Your brain is collapsing under its own fear. Like just describe some descriptive shit like that in the moment. They're going to be like, "Oh shit." Like they're going to, even though you're going to be like, "Well, my guy wouldn't be like that." And it's like, then you're kind of like, "Okay, dude. Come on. Join the bit. I'm trying to say this thing's fucking scary." You know.
Yeah, it's what they, well, look, because you can tell your players how they feel or how something makes them feel from like a knee jerk reaction standpoint. It treads that line of like, oh well, you can't take away my agency. No, if I walked outside and I saw a fucking Udok walking around my neighborhood, that's a knee jerk reaction. That's something that I don't have control over. That just takes over me. I'm fucking scared. I am startled. And you can kind of implant that on your players of like your initial reaction to this is dread. What you choose to do in the face of dread, that is completely up to you. But I'm saying your instinct is to run. Now, whatever you do to combat that, then that's up to you.
Correct. Yeah. And also, I mean, you could always pull the, oh yeah, like you guys are hiding and you turn to the right and you see just a big pair of eyes from the darkness just
Yeah.
just staring at you, and the player's like, and you describe what they see. Like, you see a 30-foot tall, bushy bodied, but long limbed with large claws, big red eyes, a bug like face staring at you from behind the trees. It almost blends in, looking like the trees as it stares at your figure from the dark. What do you do? And their first thought would be like, does it see me? It's looking right at you. It's not moving. The area's still. It's all quiet here. You're the only one it seems to be looking at. That player is going to shit their pants, especially if they're low level. And they're probably going to immediately talk to their friends. Should I call out to it? What should I do? Should I attack it? And they're probably going to be like, okay, just have them say they attack it. Just have the creature not move. Just have it not do anything. It just keeps staring at you. No reason to attack. And they'll run away.
Yeah,
they'll be like, okay, we shouldn't fuck with
them
this. Let's just go. And then don't have it
Also-
chase. Don't have it chase. Just have it just stare at them until they leave.
That'll fuck them up. And to piggyback off of that, if you successfully instill fear in your players, they will most likely try to metagame. Not in a bad perspective, but like they will try to like talk above the table. Fuck, what should I do? What should I do? It is completely within
Shut
your
it
bounds
down.
to the DM to go, nobody fucking help them.
No,
You can say,
this is
everybody
your
shut
decision.
the fuck up. You are in this. And that will make them even scareder.
Yep.
More afraid, more scared.
More scared, yeah.
Kind of stupid.
And more afraid. But no, I had that. I actually had that happen in one of my games. One of my characters was a hexblade, and every once in a while he'd have like a dark dream where he'd be sucked into his blade, and it would be like this decayed version of his paladin chapel. And he was like in this. It was a pretty horrific like Coliseum with like lost souls, and like he could see one of the enemies like fighting in the Coliseum, and basically the patron he had was standing next to him, and he looked pretty scary, but he looked familiar. And above table, immediately he was like, guys, what should I ask him? And I literally said, like, no, they're not here. What are you gonna say to this guy? And he was like very nervous. He was like, oh, and he didn't know what to say. And then he like started asking questions, and I was role playing with him. And then he got sucked out, and he was freaked out by that. And it was a little bit of good character progression for his guy. Like, oh, maybe my sword's not all that good.
Yeah. A really good way to instill a tense moment or even like a sense of dread or a sense of fear in your players is not allowing them to metagame.
Yes, and I paused the music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You
just
paused the
dead
music?
silence. Everyone shut up. It's just me and you right now.
Yeah. There's a cool app called Pocket Bard. If you haven't heard of it, it's a fairly new thing, probably been around for like a year or so. But it's literally an app full of like scenic, like ambience music and stuff. But there's a couple things in there. Like there's one, let me get my phone. There's one that is just called, there's like one ambience that's just called tense. And I don't know if we're going to I don't want to get like copywritten or do anything. But
It's just
there's-
background noise. It's just like,
yeah, it's like extremely intense background noise. And it's hard to describe what it is, but it's like it's just like this very unsettling ambience. And there's no like super intense sounds or anything, but it's just like this unsettling presence. Whenever the music stops and like I need an intense moment, I just stop the music and I turn that on. And it like fills that silence with dread. Yeah, sorry, little weird tangent, but Pocket Bar is really cool. You should actually, if you don't use it, it's like $5 a month. Well, you can use it for free, but like the paid subscription is like $5 a month, and it's really useful. It's really cool.
please.
It works on your phone.
If you don't make playlists for your sessions, please use something like Pocket Bard. it does
Yeah.
actually save you a lot of time if you don't want to actually make playlists. I prefer playlists because you can be more specific with your song choice and stuff and have like theme songs for cities or whatever. But just the bare minimum, like use that because you can just do sliders, sound effects. It's so easy.
I do both. So I will curate my playlists for music, but then I will put on Pocket Bard's ambience because they have like rain, storms, rivers, tenseness. They have like a fucking heartbeat setting that where it just like does a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. It's really cool. I feel like this is a good spot to end it.
I guess so.
Unless
Do we
you
have any?
any,
Do we have
unless
anything
you have any
else?
final thoughts.
Oh, here, final thought. Just another example of the big monster blocking the path. The Balrog from Lord of the Rings. Very similar thing. They couldn't fight that. That forced them to escape the mines. Like they couldn't stay there any longer. I know, like for the story, it's like they were leaving the mines anyways. But like that's another example. It's like, okay, we have to leave now. Like this big monster is gonna kill us all. Like, and it did.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's exactly what we described. Their most powerful player had to sacrifice himself so that everyone else ran away, and they didn't look back because they were fucking scared. They did look back and say, "No, okay, no," but you know that it's the same thing. Like he took out.
You see,
It's
they didn't look back. The little naive Frodo looked back. He was like, "No." All the experienced fighters are like, "Yo, we're going.
yeah, they're just
We
tugging at
gotta
him.
go."
Yeah, and
Yeah, that
you know
guy's
what?
gonna die, but we gotta go.
That's exactly what we described. It's the, oh, we got to leave this area. It's too high level for us. It's not ready. Like, we got to go. It's scary in here. Big monster shows up. The one guy's like, guys, I don't think we're going to make it away from this guy. He sacrifices himself to get everyone else out.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Most
All the
famous
experienced players
example.
were like, "Oh yeah, that guy's got okay. Yep, that guy's taking the bullet. We got to get the fuck out of here now because that thing's gonna kill us all."
Yeah, and Frodo is the new player at the table who's never played before. He's like, no, we got to save him. Bro, he's dead. We got to go.
Yeah.
Fuck his magic items. We're out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Ah, fuck yeah.
There you go. We'll leave it off like that.
Perfect. All right. Well, this has been episode 7 of the Sage Nook podcast. You can follow me, Tom the Adventure Sage. You can follow me, like I said, at the Adventure Sage. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. You might be watching this on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. Mitch the Dual Wielder. He hasn't done fucking shit with his socials yet.
I haven't done shit with my Instagram. I gotta be honest. I uninstalled Instagram. I just spent way too much time on that shit, so I kind of stopped. I'm gonna find somewhere else to post my art and stuff.
All right. So maybe don't follow him on Instagram. If the frames that we have right now, that's all him. The logo for like, the dwarf head and the sage's head, that's all him. If you want like pixel art and stuff, if you can't find him, you come to me.
Yeah,
And I'll find him.
go to
All
the
right?
Adventure Sage, and $1 billion. I'll make any art piece. We say it every episode. $1 billion.
The low price of $1 billion.
Yeah,
He'll give you character artwork.
I mean,
in
if
pixel
you,
form.
I'll dig a hole for you. I don't know. Give me $1 billion. Diggy hole. Yep. Even just look right above me. Right me up. There's a little guy.
Wolf.
The dwarf. But yeah. Point of this episode, guys, is the invisible railroad, and find your Balrog moment. There you go.
Find your Balrog moment. Teach him a lesson.
Teach them a lesson. Players can't kill a Balrog. The cave troll was plenty.
All right, motherfuckers. We out.
We out. Fuck you. Peace out. Yeah.